Namo Aditapa. Thanks so much for joining me for our daily practice check-in. Listen, listen, listen. This beautiful sound calls us back to our true home. The first mindfulness training. Aware of the suffering caused by the destruction of life, I vow to cultivate compassion and learn ways to protect the lives of people, animals, plants, and minerals. I'm determined not to kill, not to let others kill, and not to condone any act of killing in the world, in my thinking or in my way of life. For our Dharma lessons, we're reading Ajahn Munindo's book, Unexpected Freedom, and we're continuing in a chapter on contemplating happiness with a section on practice as preparation. How is formal sitting preparation? When we sit on our cushion, we are encouraged to be still and not to move, even if we want to. As we sit, we just observe whatever is happening in body and mind without trying to achieve anything special. We experience thoughts and fantasies and different sorts of feelings and sensations. We allow things to be as they are. The more we try to forcibly stop our imagination and internal dialogue, the more vigorous our mental activity becomes. One skillful way of working is to try seeing ourselves as being a host to visiting guests. We treat them with kindness and courtesy and give them space to be themselves. It's not our duty to get unnecessarily involved with them. Sometimes our preoccupation with the momentum of our worldly activities means that we do not attain any real peace. I've recently spent whole meditation sessions designing the interior of our new retreat house. It does not necessarily matter that we do not attain deep tranquility. It's more important to know that there is no obligation to be carried away by our thoughts and reactions. The discipline of meditation is a way of practicing to be with reality as it is. This is what we are preparing for. How to be with what is, fully present in body and mind, so that we can learn from what is instead of being caught up in what if or if only. The what if disorder is endemic. What if that didn't happen? What if this happened? The if-only disease is also a very painful and sad condition, which we all suffer from to varying degrees. Instead of suffering the agony of being caught up in the if-only disease, we could be experiencing the pleasure of learning from what already is, the way things naturally are. This takes training, however, and one of the ways the Buddha encouraged us to become more focused in our efforts is to think about our death and what it's going to be like. I have a very good friend who lives in a rest home in Newcastle. She was independent until the age of 97, but in the past 3 years has retired to a home where she receives nursing care. She was telling me recently, I really feel for the other people in this home. Most of them haven't prepared themselves for being here. She sits in a room pretty much all day long, peacefully preparing for dying. Every time I go to see her, she says, I was preparing to die last night. She describes how on occasions she has woken around 3 a.m. filled with a sense of awe associated with the perception of vast, free, edgeless awareness. On starting to open her eyes or on moving physically, she observed a collapsing or a limiting of this awareness. From this experience, she says, she has developed a practice of learning how to inhibit this movement of contraction and to dissolve back into edgelessness, which is how she imagines dying will be. We have often talked about it in a calm and clear manner. She manifests a genuine inner contentment. I could see that she felt real pity for the people who distract themselves watching television all day long. She tends not to get involved in the various activities that are arranged for people living in the home. She feels that death is too important for her to be distracting herself with such things. So most of the time, she happily stays in her room. She reads the Dhammapada and one or two other Buddhist books. She meditates and contemplates dying. I found this a great inspiration. When I read happiness arises from having accumulated virtue by life's end, I sometimes think what the alternative is, the terrible sadness that arises when you realize your lot. The image the Buddha gave for somebody who had spent their life developing virtue, who hasn't spent their life developing virtue, is a scraggy old heron standing lonely at the edge of a dried up lake without any fish in it. At the end of their life, they haven't accumulated any virtue. All that remains is an inner sense of poverty. Contrast that with the possibility of the real pleasure that can be there if we come to the end of our life, knowing we've applied ourselves to what really matters and is genuinely worthwhile. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. Namo Adida Phat. Thanks so much for joining me today.